Save Me a Seat by Sarah Weeks and Gita Varadarajan. This is a wonderful story about two main characters, Joe and Ravi, and they both started their first week in fifth grade at Albert Einstein Elementary School. First, we'll start with Ravi. Ravi is new to Albert Einstein Elementary School. He's just come from Bangalore, India, but he believes school will not be a problem because he was the top student in his old school in India. He was also very popular and excelled at sports. He looks forward to impressing his teachers and new friends with his abilities. He's full of confidence, only to have everything go wrong. He was popular, but now he's struggling to fit in. Joe is our other student. He has lived in Hamilton, New Jersey his whole life and grown up with the students with whom he goes to school with. Unlike Robbie, Joe dreads most of school as he's constantly picked on by the popular bully, Dylan. His quiet demeanor and lack of participation is often mistaken by students and teachers alike as a lack of intelligence, but in reality, he has a condition called auditory processing disorder, which makes it difficult for him to sort out extraneous noises. He's already sure this year is going to be terrible. His best friends have moved away, and his mom has become the new lunchroom monitor. The only part of school that Joe looks forward to is lunch. He's constantly hungry. This title references both the boys' concern over who they will sit with during lunch. They both come from very different places, but they are stuck in school. Both kids are sent to the special room to work with Miss Frost. Now I'm going to read a little excerpt. So from page 82. And this is Miss Frost talking to Robbie. I'm here to help you in any way I can, says Miss Frost. We have lots of ESL materials here in the resource room. ESL, I say? English is a second language, she explains. Mrs. Beam mentioned that she and some of the children have been having difficulty understanding you because of your accent. I hang my head. English is not my second language, it's my first. My English is much better than my Tamil. Mop Top, that's referring to Joe, doesn't even know me, and now she's criticizing the way that I speak. I can only imagine how difficult this must be for you, she tells me. A new school in a new country. Maybe it would help to speak with Mr. Garfinkel, our guidance counselor. He's very easy to talk to. I feel like I'm suffocating. Now I'm in need of some counseling, too. Please, I whisper, can I just go back to the classroom? Of course, she says, and pats my head. Mrs. Beam should be back in her classroom by now. I'm sure she doesn't mind if you sit quietly and read until the others come from lunch. I nod my head, grateful that my torture is finally coming to an end. Okay, then I'm going to go on a little. There's a little bit more in this chapter that I want. Miss Frost and I walk down the corridor together. When we reach room 506, she turns to me. How about we meet again next week, she says, once you've had a bit more time to settle in. I reach to open the door, but Miss Frost puts her hand on my shoulder. Before you go, can I tell you something? I think you've assumed something about Joe that isn't true. You and he could easily be friends. I shake my head no. Why should I be his friend after what he did to me? This morning in class, he tripped me on purpose with his foot and nearly broke my glasses, I say. Mrs. Frost bites her lip and says, I wasn't there, but if he tripped you, he owes you an apology. And you owe him an apology as well for implying that he might not be as smart as you are. Just because Joe needs help doesn't mean he isn't bright. You shouldn't assume things about a person before you know who they really are. People are making assumptions about me too, I point out. They think I can't speak English or do math, but that's not true. Miss Frost nods her head. You see, she says, assumptions are often wrong. She tells me to remember that. Unfortunately, the only thing that Ravi and Joe have in common is the school bully, Dylan Samarine. Ravi wrongly believes that Dylan will be his friend, but Joe does everything to avoid Dylan. What can two fifth graders from the opposite ends of the world have in common? What might bring them together against the one thing they have in common? In the most unlikely of places, the school cafeteria. But a prank involving a jar of leeches. Read Save Me a Seat to find out. This book is a very fun book. There are many common themes. Um, One of the main things is that assumptions are often wrong, as from the excerpt. Miss Frost says you shouldn't assume things about a person before you know who they really are. And, as Ravi says, he's judged because of his accent. Ravi repeatedly assumes things about himself and about other people that often turn out to be incorrect. So both Joe and Robbie fight against assumptions that are made about their intellects and overall abilities, both by teachers and by other students. Joe is judged as unintelligent because of his auditory processing disorder. Robbie misjudges Dylan, the class bully as a friend. First impressions can be wrong in many ways. This book would help kids develop empathy as well as consider who they may have misjudged. This book also talks about friendship. Um, both boys are concerned with the physical representation of friendship indicated by the title of this book. Um, Although the setting of the book is in school, the conflicts revolve around the school's social, not academic atmosphere. So both boys are concerned with who they'll sit with at lunch. Uh, this book would also lend itself to talking about character traits, internal and external, as well as character change. It'd be great for learning about plot, and it would be easy to track on a story mountain. The book alternates between Ravi's point of view and Joe's point of view, so it's easily divided um, into chapters of the first 5 days of the school week. And each one of the chapters is labeled by, or the name of the title is based on what they're having for lunch. It's a fast-paced, fun story with some serious moments thrown in there. It's quite an engaging story. You'll have to read it to find out.